Hello world, how are you? We have some Q&A to do. I hope you're doing fine, cause it's Q&A time again. Hello world, how's it going? Hope you guys are all doing well. If not, as always, let me flip you around here. Hope you guys are doing well. I got you guys actually plugged in, so that's why the camera work there was really shoddy, because I'm hooked up to my computer, so my phone has battery. I'm just kind of running in here for you guys to get this started. So hope you guys are all having a great Friday. Hope you guys all had a great week. If not, I hope it will get better for you next week, or if not, tomorrow, hopefully even better. So glad to see you all in here. Hello, 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 hello. Greg's just drinking some Coca-Cola tonight. Pretty plain Jane. My usual. Live chat, thank you, Candy Overhaul, so much for the super chat to tell me live chat. Almost every live stream now, it seems to be. But thank you, thank you, thank you, Candy, for all your awesome help and support. I can never, ever, ever thank you enough. Mason, glad to see you in here, buddy. Hope your guys' shrimp are doing well that I shipped to you. You'll have to have your dad tell me about that. And hello, everybody. So yes, so if you haven't been here before, this is where you can ask questions about keeping freshwater aquarium shrimp, fish, and or plants. Pretty much anything that has to do with keeping anything with freshwater aquatics. So if you're having troubles, you don't know what's going on, you need some help, or maybe you got an idea what you want and you just don't know how to approach it or to make it happen, or you may just worry about it. That's what we're here, is to just kind of help build your confidence within this hobby and to help everybody around. And Father Fish, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for the support in the super chat. Throwing down to $10. Father Fish, so glad to see you in here. Glad that yeah, you could make it. It feels like it's been a while. I hear Aqua Shell is going to be down in Orlando, so maybe, hopefully, I could get myself down to Florida here sooner than later. If all this madness would just go away, that would be great. But thank you again, Father Fish. I appreciate you, bro. Ab Shoelay says, "Hi, Lucas. Will Banjo Catfish eat White Cloud Minnow eggs?" Possibly. More than likely, yes. So they are kind of smaller catfish, but at the same time, they're bottom dwellers. They're going to graze across the bottom, across the rocks, looking for any kind of snack that they can get to themselves. And I'm sure they could fit those into their mouth, so I would say yes. And they're good at getting in between the crevices, too. Michael, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. It says, how do you keep Java moss out of your power head? It gets tangled once a week in my aqua top power head. So the Java moss, if it keeps wanting to float up above, especially whenever you do your water changes, sometimes what will happen is all that reoxygenation of the water will actually lift the moss up off the substrate. A good way to combat against that is just sprinkle a little bit of your substrate on it, or just place some rocks that'll actually hold it down from floating away from your water changes. But Michael, thank you so much for the support. Hopefully that helps. And with the power head, it's kind of hard to fight. Usually they do have this, dang it, I can't pull you guys off here right now. Give me a little while. But usually they have like a flap where you can direct where the water's gonna head towards. So if you have it aim more towards the surface of the water instead of just straight across where it's gonna blow it in a cycle, that'll help you as well. So it all depends on your flow direction and your speed of the flow. I've even put the power head down on the bottom, so it's not even actually on the glass, but the power head actually shoots straight up. That can work too. And it's very handy for that sort of situation. But hopefully that helps, and thank you again. Cat Warren Aquatics says, do you know what triggers crystal red shrimp to breed? Usually something in the diet. I've noticed I had a lot of luck whenever I used like this certain like specialty gold food or something. It would usually trigger them. I know water changes can help. Slight water changes. You don't really need to water change them a whole lot to really get them going, but yeah, for the most part, I would say diet's probably the most important part about triggering them to breed. 305 Richie Rich says, hello LRB, your bag of water, how does it work and what does one do with it? So the Molmy bag of water is pretty much taking like one of these power heads and squeezing the beneficial bacteria and the mold in there. So what it does is instantly pretty much gives you what would be in the substrate. So say you set up a new tank, you've got substrate in it, you're ready to go, you got your plants in it, you just want to cycle it real fast instead of waiting so long. You squeeze one of those filter medias in that and it'll cycle it pretty much instantly. And that's what's in that bag. So it's just like the magical juice of Mother Nature. It'll give you an instantly cycled aquarium. I know some people, they can just get it from friends or club members or something like that, but if you don't have them, that's why I offer it. But it's great for cycling an aquarium naturally. And try my best to read all these questions. Sorry if I miss your questions. Pretty good at speed reading, but not that good. Okay, boom, 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 boom. What's your favorite moss and why? Thanks. My favorite moss is actually the Pilo moss. And that's because you can pretty much grow it in next to no light. It's very, very low light moss. Doesn't grow too fast, but doesn't grow too slow. And it bushes out well. Chris Trapp, thank you so much for the $2 super chat for the Tropical Granules Fund. Well, I appreciate that, Chris. I definitely go through a lot of those, and that definitely helps. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And thank you all for all your orders lately, too. It's been amazing. Much appreciated. I do got to give a shout out to Oddball Aquatics. She is helping me with some water changes here, so huge shout out to her. I'm hopefully getting some things done around here and moving about again and caught up a little bit. It's just been kind of overwhelming with my to-dos. It's been ridiculous, but I'm just gonna keep on hacking at it and eventually I will get to where I need to be. Fire to Ashes says, you mentioned before you first started off with hang-on backs, then switched to sponge air filtration. How long roughly would I leave my hang-on back filter running with sponge until I can remove it? You can remove it right away. You don't have to really wait, especially if you're going to go to sponge air filtration. The good thing about the hang on the back is it's good for like polishing and cleansing the water. If you could stay up on your media, it can actually do a really good job, but at the same time you get into a lot of the commercialism of it where you've got to pay so much per month to stay on it, to get the materials that you need and stuff like that, which also creates waste. So that's why I prefer the natural method. I mean, you're going to get different results from it, but if you're just doing sponge air filtration, you shouldn't have to worry about any air on your fish. It is always good to watch them because there are rare cases where the fish have got used to a very highly oxygenated water, and if it switches too fast, it can be problematic. But you could also combat this by slowing the flow of your filter to where it slowly reduces the oxygenation of that water to where they're more balanced off to it by the time that there is no air. I've never really had any issue with any of the fish that I've actually kept that I went from straight no filter, just unplugged it, pulled it out, and let them do their things. I never really had any issue with doing that myself. But like I said, some fish can be used to highly oxygenated water to where it could possibly affect them. Silent Aroma, thank you so much for the super chat. Throwing down the $5 super chat, says, what's up? Received some yellow neos a couple months ago. They looked awesome when they arrived and still are blowing my mind. Stay awesome, brother. Well, you stay awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I really, really appreciate that. And yeah, those yellows are fire. I've been working on those for a long time. But thank you for the order, the support, and the super chat. I appreciate it, brother. Tyler Urbanix says, is it okay to run airstone or sponge filter in planer tank with CO2 injection? Will it dissipate all the natural CO2 the plants need? So yeah, it actually does push out some of the CO2 and can outgas the CO2 as well. So you're not getting as much of a concentration of the CO2 within the water, and mostly because when you're running that air line in there, it's breaking up the surface tension, so the CO2 doesn't really get trapped as well. Those micro bubbles will not get trapped within the water column and distributed as properly as they should if you weren't running any kind of surface tension breaker, I should say. I mean, that could be either a filter, power head, or an airline. So something to think about. Some people, I know Fluval has something where it's kind of like a bell. It's a suction cup. You can put it on the side of the glass and it actually holds the CO2 within the water. And the plants actually use the CO2 from that, and it just slowly pulls and draws it. That's something to think about when trying to combat that if you want to try to run both. And you can even test it with that too. And you can see how much quicker it'll pull it out of the water column from testing it by doing something like that. But hopefully that helps you. Freshwater Aquatics says, what is the difference between breeding annuals versus non-annual killifish? So the annuals, you really got to kind of stay up on a cycle of breeding them. They don't live as long as the non-annuals. The non-annuals can live a few years. The annuals, sometimes you can get them over a year. It all depends on the species. That's really the biggest difference, is just really lifespan. Some have breeding differences within whether they're mop spawners or peat spawners. And let's see, some size difference, and of course names and everything else. They're usually classified as such too, as far as their Latin names go. Secret History Living in Your Aquarium says, hey brother, got your art all digitized and vectored. I'm coloring the original copy as we speak this evening. Oh, well, that is exciting. I was just thinking about that yesterday. Waiting to see that thing in color. Like, it's absolutely amazing. If you haven't seen the Secret History Living in Your Aquarium, he does he does YouTube, he does great videos too, but he does some amazing artwork too. The guy's got some skills, and he's the one that actually did my Mad Scientist poster, and he's working on a whole new project, which will be super awesome. I'm excited about it. I got a sneak peek of it, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. And once again, sorry if I'm missing you guys' questions. Joshua Denny says, just bought some scriddles and some guppy pairs. Glad to be supporting a local hobbyist. Keep it up. Keep up the great work. Enjoying all the knowledge. Do I need to separate both guppy pairs? So if you got, thank you for your order first and foremost, but if you got two pairs of the same thing, I would keep them together. That way you can have a deeper gene pool when you do breed them out. But if you did get two separate types, then yeah, you definitely want to separate them. When we ship them, we actually ship the guppies, males and females, separated. That way, because sometimes the females, they'll get hungry, especially if they're pregnant, and I send them and try to eat the male. So we always try to separate the pairs there. But thank you so much for your order and your support. I appreciate it. LRB Hawksbill Aquatics says, could placing my light farther from the tank decrease green water? My water seems to go green after 2 days. Yes, definitely. Light decrease and strength and intensity of light can definitely help with that, and most algae problems. Most algae problems come from our light being too strong and too close to our aquariums. 305 Richie Rich says, LRB, out of the shrimp you offer on your website, which ones do better in hard tap water? So they all do great in hard tap water. All my neocaridinias are the same, whether they're red, blue, yellow, orange. Doesn't matter what color they are. They will do well in pretty much any water that is livable. Let me rephrase that. Vaxel Shinkaruk, I think. I tried, at least. Lucas, where you get your triangle sponge filter with gray sponge? So those actual sponge filters I used to use are actually kind of hard to find on the internet. Hertz makes them. But my local fish store, the Reef, here in Indianapolis is where I actually got them. And they sell them super cheap. So I don't know if you're in the Indiana area or Indianapolis, but they have them. They're about the only place I could ever find them. You can try Googling Hertz, H-E-R-T-Z, sponge filters. You might get lucky because it's 2020. I don't know. They may have that in there now. Let's see. Scrolling. Secret History Living in Your Aquarium says, also remember that air stone does bring CO2, nitrogen, oxygen into your tank if you are not running CO2. People forget atmosphere has what plants crave. Yes, it can help, definitely, for sure. It doesn't quite work as well as the steroids of CO2 and really gives them as much as they could potentially uptake. But that's a very fine line as well. If you want to be safer about it, airline is helpful. Thing with CO2 and pressurized CO2 and trying to build up a amount of CO2 within your water column actually affects your fish too, to where they can get drunk off of it, they can feel funny off of it. Kind of a reason why I don't really use it much, because you're literally gassing your fish. David Tatum says, the ads I see on YouTube are just weird. I have premium, so I can only imagine what you guys are going through now with YouTube's ads. Patrick Callahan says, what's your favorite crib? Mine would be that Ferragenia purple silver queen crib. Because once you get that really going, it looks absolutely amazing, especially if you get it under some light. You're welcome. Fire to Ashes says, I have both running in my Placo tanks, but the HOBs really don't work well with my space. Whoa, guys. Easy. So back to the guy with the sponge filters and the hang on the backs, wondering about how to take them off. Says, I'd rather stick with the sponge filters. They aren't very old tanks, been running a month-ish. Well, if they've been running a month-ish, then they are kind of still fresh, getting to their newly cycled area. You might start dealing with diatoms. I would probably, honestly, if you want to not deal with diatoms, because once you unplug that HOB, you probably are, especially if you're just going to run a sponge filter, because they'll eat off that oxygen. And this is only a potential. You may not even have it happen, but it does happen sometimes. Diatoms is like the brown algae, the stuff that'll stick to the glasses and the rocks. But maybe give it another month before you do take the filter off. Or just test it out. Like, don't be afraid to test things out in the hobby either, because that's how you learn the most, is by doing things like that. So it's really up to you and how you feel about your tank and kind of the results you're looking for. I know that probably made it more confusing. So sorry about that. But I think you'll be fine with just the sponge filters. Scrolling. Fire to Ashes says, I have a juvenile bare bottom tank and substrate juvenile tank. Isn't it better technically to do substrates? I have more issue with bare bottom tanks than I do with Substrate 1. And the reason for this is because of your beneficial bacteria. So on your HOBs, for instance, you've got that foam in there, and then that foam holds all that brown, moldy, dirty stuff that people clean out of their aquariums. That's actual beneficial bacteria, and that stuff helps eat rotten food. It helps eat all kinds of stuff. It helps feed other microorganisms. More of that stuff that you can filter your water through, it is more natural filtration that you can have for your aquarium. So that's why substrate tanks do better, because they hold all that in there like a filter would. And the thing with bare bottom tanks is we'll tend to over clean them, and that causes more problems for our fish because they don't have that beneficial bacteria to help recycle that water that we just changed out. This is something people always have to think about when they're doing their water changes, is all that new water kind of has to recycle itself as well. So technically, slower water change you can do, the better off for your aquarium as well, opposed to like turn and burn trying to get it done. J-Rad Iron Man, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. It's so great to see you in here, J-Rad. Hope all's doing well with you and your shrimp adventure. And thank you, thank you. Boo doo boo boo. Alright, Kim Cunningham says, I had my 75 with a slow leak on Monday. Can't find where the leak is. Would you try resealing the entire tank or start over with something new? Well, 75 with a slow leak, can't find where it is. I don't know if it's stopped. I don't know where your tank is. Is it on concrete? Is it over carpet? Is it in your living room? Is it in a fish room? How much do you care if the ground gets wet? I've had tanks that had a small leak and they would actually stop leaking at a certain point, and I would let those ride and I'd just keep them half full. So it really depends on how many tanks you have, what you're doing with them. Is it worth your time to reseal it? It is a lot of work to reseal those. We actually have a local fish store here where I could get lucky and get 75 gallons for 75 bucks on their sale days. But if not, you could always check Craigslist too for 75 gallons. So there's a few options there. Just depends on your time schedule and all that stuff, and where it sits. Koi Fish says, are root tabs absolutely necessary when growing Amazon sword plants and a sand-only substrate things? I would not say that they're absolutely necessary at all. Not at all. As long as you got some mineralization within your water column, those sword plants can still eat off of them. Biggest problem with most sword plants that people get is the fact that they're farmed out of water. So they do have that big melting transition period that makes it seem like they're doing bad. But as long as those leaves are dying off and you're getting new growth, then you're on the right path. My favorite substrate is sand, especially for rooted plants. For some reason, the chemistry and biomaterial, well, because of Mother Nature, the biomaterial that's in sand and the way that roots can get around it and stuff is just, it's a good symbiotic relationship. Like when I pull out some of my roots from my sanded substrates, there's literally sand stuck to the roots to where they've just cohered into one. Shooter McGavin says, my brother's shrimp got muscle necrosis and all of them slowly died out and the rest were stunted. How would you treat it? So probably has a lot to do with the water quality and where you actually got them. So it could either not be cycled enough as far as the tank, or maybe there's some bad bacteria in there that's out competing any good bacteria, which you can actually fight bad bacteria with good bacteria. The best thing to do is I would probably start over, really, to get whatever bacteria maybe have been in there and then really season that tank up. If you get that mulm that I have and what I was talking about, it can season it up really fast, but if not, I'd wait at least a month before getting it going. or season it up for them if you already got a tank. But I don't know. I've never actually been able to beat that. I've never really had a lot of issue with it. I have seen it here and there where shrimp would just get like white muscular necrosis, but it wouldn't spread out. So it really depends. I've never really seen them stunted though. I think that's usually not enough water change. You still do gotta change a little bit of water for the shrimp. Not as much as fish, but hopefully that can help. Candy Overhaul's having to do some work in the mod department, putting people in timeout. Avatar Aquatics, what happened to the Cardinals breeding in the outside tub? So I never did get any babies from them, but they're actually still down here in this 125. You can barely see any blue over there. They're all hanging off in that corner. I take you over there, but I'm actually plugged in right now because my phone doesn't have enough battery. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see. Secret History Living in Your Aquarium. Thank you so much for $3.33 super chat. Love the number. Says Neo Red Riley. Keep getting milky torsos. Any ideas? So that's pretty much, that's the muscular necrosis that you're probably seeing. It can happen to shrimp. It's usually they're unhealthy. Sometimes rotten food is a big cause of this as well. As if you got some food hiding off into some corner, hasn't been eaten for a while, they eat some bad food, they get some bad stuff, and it can cause problems with them. And then if they start eating the bodies of the other ones, then it has potential to pass. The real trick is just keeping the immunity. So whenever we're keeping fish as well, when we're keeping them healthy, it's all about keeping their systems healthy, keeping the water healthy so their systems can be healthy. Anytime that we stress those immunities with whether too much water change, not enough balance of cycled material, or too much of some kind of toxin or anything, medicines or something like that, it could reduce their immunities. And then they get the potential rotten food for muscular necrosis, bacterial infections, fungal infections, stuff like that. So it's just like us when it comes to health. It's the same thing with fish and shrimp. If you think about it that way, it can help you out so much more and make it a lot easier. Vessel says, have you used passive CO2 diffusion like upside down plastic bottles? I have, and it actually works really well. Now it does become tricky if you put a power head, like on no filters, it works awesome. If you start using a filter or a power head, it'll pull that passive CO2 from the plastic bottle out really fast. So it is kind of a trick to it. Cooley Kev says, do you know if it is possible to order beneficial microorganisms from your aquarium? So when you do get the Malm bags, that has all the beneficial microorganisms in it. So you'll have the Cyclops, you'll have the Daphnia, all the little good things that come into the aquarium. And when I say Daphne, I really mean like seed shrimp and stuff. Justin Mosley says, Aquarium Hoarder, do you think splitting my tap water that's very hard around 400 TDS with my RO water that's around 80 TDS would do well for my Neos? So yes, I actually sometimes will, a lot of times prefer to split mine 50-50 with my tap water that runs close to the same. My RO does run a little lower. But with that, what happens is when you mix those, and what I would do is I would put in my RO first, and then I'd use the heavy tap water. Because what happens, say you change the water in this aquarium, you fill it up with 25% RO water. That RO water is actually lighter, so it'll sit on the tank more if there's not a whole lot of distribution as far as flow and everything. But what happens is when you put the heavier alkaline hard water on top of it, it'll actually sit and compress and help blend that water more when you do your water change as well, to make it an easier orchestration of recycling that water to its best and full potential for your fish or shrimp. And the shrimp, especially neos, and another thing that happens when that happens is the acidity of that softer water will actually help break up the mineralization of the harder water, which makes it better for digestion of your plants and your shrimp and other stuff. Because even fish use that through osmosis, some of them within their skin and everything else. So I actually really do like to blend my RO and my hard water. But if I'm in a hurry, I'm just chucking hard water. It all depends on my day, my schedule, my time. There are leeways to it. If you have real healthy and hearty stock of original fish or shrimp, that goes a million miles away. If you're just not getting from a good source to where it is an issue, like, your fish and shrimp should not be that sensitive. J-Rad Iron Man, thank you so much for the $5 super chat again. Appreciate it, brother. Says, if I get mold bags from you, would all the BB die if they aren't open for 5-7 days? No, actually it doesn't. It'll live for a long time. I'm not sure how long it'll live. I should probably keep a bag out to test it. But I have had a bag sit out more than a couple weeks and still look the same. Because essentially, it's still eating off any kind of mold and buildup and organic materials that would be in there. It would take a long time for it to eat itself too, I think. That's a good question. But thank you so much for the $5 super chat, J-Rad Iron Man. And it's definitely going to be more potent than anything you would buy from like a product store that has their recycled material that you see. It's like clear, there's like nothing really in it. It's supposed to have these good bacterias. And you're just kind of guessing whether it does or not. Sometimes that is just food for bacteria as well. Alright, Ken Cunningham says, sitting on hard dresser and it leaked all over the carpet. Oh no, fish in 3 inches of water. Oh no, Kim. So sorry to hear that. Oh, that's brutal. Brutal. Yeah, I would say catch your fish. You're gonna have to break it down, find out the leak, maybe get it into your garage. That way when you want to test it to find out where the leak is, it's not such a mess. I'm so sorry to hear that. Oh man. Sean the Fish Guy says, what do you think is the most optimal hang on the back filter? I always like the Aqua Clear, but as far as the most optimal, as long as it can push water through a sponge filter, then it's really doing its job. And then keep in mind, you don't want to push the water too hard, because a lot of fish that we keep, unless you absolutely keep a fish that loves streams or like constantly swimming, which most fish don't like to constantly swim. They get tired of it. They don't have rest areas out in the wild. They have all that current and streams and stuff, but they also have bins and other placements for fish to go hang out in the shallows, to where it's not always constantly making them have to use their energy just to stay afloat. So it all depends on the fish too, and your flow if it comes to the optimal hang on the back filter. And I would say the more optimal one is one that you don't have to keep messing with. Fire to Ashes, thank you so much for the super chat. Throwing down a $15 super chat. Thank you. It says, as a thank you for my last 2 questions. Third, I have pygmy cats and Adolphoid cories. Congrats on the Adolphoid cories, one of my favorites. It says, I'd like to hopefully breed them, but there's never really any specific info like pH temp to get them to breed. So what will really trigger those to breed is a cool water change. So when you do your water change, maybe do a 50%, but put it on the cooler side towards like 60 degrees. going in, so you're probably going to mix in towards the high 60s to the low 70s, and that'll actually trigger them to spawn. If you have rock piles set, like pretty much half your tank maybe covered with rock piles, you can actually colony breed both those types of cory cats if they're in by themselves. Or you could use spawning mops. But usually that cold water change will help trigger those two types of cories, especially from where they're coming from. But thank you so much for the super chat. I hope that helps, and best of luck to you on breeding them. Lars K, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Great to see you in here, brother. Hope you're doing well. Lars has been a awesome. Guppy grass that I got going in there. So what I'll do is I'll just, oh no, my power head just fell. You see that? That's gonna cause a mess. So what's going on right now, since my power head fell down, they're all down there. It's probably kicking up black worms and other stuff. They're probably eating things out of the substrate. And you can see it's just flowing down. You know, if I don't get that in time, it'll actually start uprooting my crypt and digging into my substrate, and real pain in the butt. But anyways, I've got guppy grass in here. I really just throw it in there so the barbs and the hill trouts can eat on it. And once again, sorry if I'm missing your guys' questions. Doing my best here. Ken Cunningham says, I do want 120 gallon for Christmas. Guess Santa is coming early. I love the spirit there, Kim. Great way to think positive. That's awesome. Let's see. It's me says, ordered 15 scriddles and some plants for my 29. Excited for their arrival. Thanks for everything. Well, thank you for your order and your support. Thank you. Cool Moore says, Everbred Golden Wonders. My fry are already fighting like little buggers. Should I give them more cover? They are only a week old. So they will start competing with each other. Best way to battle that is a lot of surface area in a shallow kind of tank or setting. Doesn't necessarily have to be shallow, but shallow waters are better for fry and young fish. I have bred Golden Wonders. As a matter of fact, that was the first fish I actually bred on purpose. And they will battle each other to be king of the tank. So you can either separate them or give them more surface area and space. Oddball Aquatics says, in your opinion, what is the best way to deal with a leaking 125 gallon on white carpet? What are you talking about, Oddball Aquatics? She's supposed to be working on my 125 gallon tank right now. I hope she's joking around. Because that would be absolutely horrible. That's my main range fish tank. Are you kidding? Oh, she is kidding. Jeez Louise, she's laughing her butt off. She thinks that's the funniest. That's a scary thought. I wouldn't even know where to begin. My outdoor wishbone pond is actually spraying a little bit of leak. Luckily, it didn't go too far down, so I can still hold water in there. But trying to move all those pond guppies and corkscrew valves. And if I had to think about that main rainbow tank, I would rather not. Oh my God. Glad that was a joke. Alright. Let's see. Where was I? That threw me off. Okay, there I am. Scrolling. Have you ever had success raising any discus? So as far as breeding and raising discus, I have not. And I think a lot of it has to do with water temperature and water changes. They really do prefer warmer and more water changes. Like, I've got them to lay eggs, but they always ate the eggs too. So I haven't really concentrated that hard on it. 7 by 7 feet fish room, best to heat room or tanks? What I would do is probably heat the bottom tanks, and then the heat would rise up from those bottom tanks. So what you're essentially doing is turning your bottom tanks into a radiator heater. You could probably get away with less wattage that way and less fire potential. I have a electric radiator heater that I use for the garage in here, but I think that would be a bit too much for a 7x7. But I did have a 240 gallon in here that had 500 watt heater in it, and that thing was just took over what that radiator heater would do. And it was pulling a lot less power. Gringo says I heard her giggle. William Conan says, what would you say is the best plant to grow above an aquarium? Ooh, that's a good question. It would be hard to pick a best. Like, I love the pearlweed. I love this Brazilian pennywort. It just goes nuts above the aquarium. But there's a lot of stem plants you can do, whether it be Luigia, Rotalia, Riccia is really good. This is Angustifolia right here. This is a Hygrophila. That's like a bush. More of the Brazilian pennywort here. Hello, Discus. But it really depends. Ew. I wouldn't recommend the Angustifolia though. That stuff kind of stinks. It's like, it's not bad around here, but if you like brush up on it or get it on your hands, it does kind of stink. But the Brazilian pennywort, that stuff actually smells really good. I don't really have a whole lot of other ones in here as far as floating plants. Taiwan lily does pretty good, but it doesn't really grow out of it. That's more of an in the water plant. Let's see. And once again, sorry if I'm missing your questions. Best advice on breeding white clouds? To me, they've kind of been seasonal for me, so I'm not really 100% sure. I'm not a pro at breeding white clouds at all. So hopefully somebody in the chat, my cat is messing with my door. She just all of a sudden started getting this bad habit where she wants to pick at the sill of my garage door, which is definitely not good for my fish room. So let's get her before she rips away my garage. It is getting cold here. Scrolling. Oh, and that pennywort is on sale if you think it's looking dang good. I think I got it for like $3 right now. I'm trying to sell a bunch of it because I've got a bunch of it. So I'm offering it cheap. Hey, squeakers. Meow. Alright. LRBAquatics.com, if that's what you're wondering what my website is. Oh crap, I about spilled my drink. That was a good catch. Caught that with the back of my hand. Gringo Aquatics says, at what age do blue growers reach material or maturity? When can I tell male from female? Well, it kind of depends on how fast you're growing them, but it only takes a few months. It doesn't take long at all. You can probably tell within 3 months at least, if not sooner. And when you're raising them up too, it's good to kind of separate them out a little bit. You'll see most of the hostility coming from the males. So they can tend to eat, the males can tend to eat off the females if you're not careful. So it's kind of a guessing game when they're real young. You can watch them by their behavior too, which can help. Let's see, scrolling. Looks like the chat is handling a lot of questions. Great to see that. That is amazing. Brian Bauer says, if I add celebrate rainbows to my Bosemani tank, are they close enough to screw up any eggs I am collecting? Will they cross? No, they shouldn't cross at all. You should be alright. Tony Dickerson says, what is the key to breeding crib? So as far as the cribs, the best way to breed those would just pretty much leave them alone, set their mood, set their atmosphere and environment to where it's nice and calm. It's pretty much just them in there. Give them a good diet. Don't pester them much. Watch them. And play some Barry Manilow. Should just start breeding for you in time. Let's see, 305 Richie Rich says, I'm going to place an order for some fire red, but how many should I start with and what size tank? So that all depends on you. Of course, more tank you have, the more shrimp you're going to have. And then as far as how many to get, all depends on what size of tank you have. More you get, the deeper the gene pool is going to be. So let's say if you decided that you just wanted a 10 gallon, you didn't want them to get too crazy, you just wanted to watch them, create a nice little environment with them, and just interact with them, then I would go with like 10 or 12 for a 10 gallon. Now if I was doing a 20 gallon, I'd probably start with 20. Or you can even do 10 or 12. Anything more than that, then definitely 20 plus, because you're gonna have such a big area for genetics to mix that you're going to want that to be as deep as possible genetically. Cool Moore says, I would still get some if I wasn't in Canada. Actually, can you ship to Canada if it's not live fish? Would buy some equipment to support you if you have any. So I don't really sell equipment or products because I don't really use a whole lot of equipment or products, so I can't really sell much for them. Let Mother Nature do her thing. I actually prefer it that way. I wish I could ship to Canada, but unfortunately I can't. It's just too much of a process at this point. Being a small business, I am kind of, what do I say, confined to growth a little bit in certain areas, a lot of areas. It's me says, do you still have the compost scud tank running? If so, how many scraps can the tank process? It actually processed quite a bit when it was like really running. I don't still have it running. I did think about doing something like that again because I thought it was really cool. Just the fact that the fish did great in it, the shrimp did great in it, the scuds did great in it. And it was really interesting because like the celery would start growing if it was just floating. It was really, really weird experiment. I'm not sure how many it would actually go through. It would be hard to really make it manageable unless you had it on like a large scale. But if you're going large scale, then you're probably going to have more scraps too within your life. So I don't know. But it is interesting. Thomas George says, for a small breeding setup, 4 to 6 40 breeders, would you prefer individual filters or large sump style? I prefer no filter myself and then just become the water rainmaker. If I had to do it easy, I would go with a large sump as far as the whole thing. The only problem with that is the mixing of things. So it's a lot harder to guard off like fry getting into another aquarium or like reishi getting into another aquarium. It can get through the system, whether it be plants or diseases or anything like that. It kind of makes it tougher, and a big reason why I haven't went towards that direction. You just have a lot more control with no filtration, I think, if you can do your water changes. But water change wise, making life easier, one large sump would do that if you're just like trying to maintain and keep the fish. But when it really comes to breeding, I prefer no filter. Priscilla MK Arts, even though it doesn't say arts, I'm still going to call you Priscilla MK Arts because she is a master artist. But thank you, Priscilla, for the $5 super chat. I appreciate the support. It says, miss the yellowbeardquarters.com jingle. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done that. Definitely still plenty of videos out there with it on there. Maybe I'll have to pull it out for you again someday here. But thank you so much, Priscilla. Great to see you in here as well. Ryan Spencer, thank you for the $5 super chat. Says running CO2, also good lights and dosing as well, but plants still seem to not be doing good. Water is also very hard. Could that be my problem? So that could be your problem. What could be happening is, since your water is real hard, it's really hard for the mineralization and your fertilization to actually break down within your water column. And that's why softer type of water can help with plants and plant growth, and why they often recommend a little softer water for plants, is because the acidity and softness of that water can actually break down those ferts and mineralization. So if you are still ferting that tank and they're not able to break down, those ferts are actually going to sit in there somewhere, and then something eventually like algae or something will start eating off of them as well. And also, if you have too much flow on plants, like say, flow's kind of like wind to plants. So if you've got too much flow on there as well, that can cause problems because your plants are just constantly stressed from being in a constant wind the whole time. That's why I have a lot of good luck with my aquariums, because they have no filters, so they really don't have that wind and that strain on plants as well. So that's something to think about too. But hopefully that helps you out, Ryan. Those tend to be the biggest issues when it comes to that hard water and plant situation that you have there. And Patrick Nedley, thank you so much for the $5 super chat and the support. Always great to see you in here. Patrick says, yo, LRB, you need to add some wax to that handlebar mustache. Question for you and the thread. If you were a fish, what fish would you want to be? Ooh, that's a good question. But as far as the wax for the mustache and the beard, yeah, I know it would be great for my beard and my mustache, but at the same time, wax and water doesn't mix well, so I tend to just stay away for it for the sake of my aquariums. Same with lotions and stuff like that. Oh my god, it would just tear me apart if I had to deal with all that. But thank you, Patrick. I appreciate it. And what fish would I be? That's a great question. I guess I would want to be in the ocean somewhere, because that's pretty big in the ocean. Why not be a big blue whale? That sounds pretty good. Even though it's a hard knock life for some of them, when you got people trying to fish you. But that's what I would choose. So they get around. Great white would be kind of cool. They're fast. It's like, do you want to be a bus or do you want to be a race car? I think I'd be the race car, be the great white. Thank you again for the super chat and the support, Patrick. I appreciate you. Rumor and Innuendo, thank you again for the super chat. You're very gracious last week, and seeing you being very gracious this week as well, throwing down a $20 super chat. I cannot thank you enough. That is some awesome support, and I really appreciate it. It says, I'm interested in trying to create a new strain of guppy. I've got the tanks and the time, but I've always line bred and never attempted to create something new. Any pointers? So really, the best thing to do when trying to create a new line is think about what you would like to create, or what you would think would look cool as a new creation, or what just may have not been done before as a new creation. Now, when it comes to new creations, it can be really hard to line them out. Sometimes you just get lucky and they just hit. Like my rainbow tiger endlers, they just hit. My platinum koi guppies, the purple platinum koi guppies, they just hit, like pretty much off the bat. But I've had some where I've been trying to line out white endlers and some other mixes that just, they're just too hard to tame. So it could just totally entail on the type of genetics that are being mixed, and just really luck of the draw. So if you really want to try it, more attempts that you try, you start playing the numbers game, and the more chance of luck that you have of one of them hitting for you. Now, if you have the time, then you can line breed more, but it does take time and a lot of work, as you may know already. And that's why a lot of shrimp strains right now actually aren't out, like the purples and stuff like that. Is just the time hasn't been out to line them. That's a whole nother chestnut. But thank you so much, Rumor and Innuendo, for the awesome $20 super chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Streetwise says, tell the folks how cool mixed Neo shrimp are with all the patterns. They are cool. They are awesome. You can get a lot of different things with mixing shrimp. And it's not like they say where they all turn muddy brown and all that kind of jazz. Of course, the more colors you start with, the deeper those cool mixes and patterns can go. Eventually I need to make more videos for you guys and actually show more of that kind of stuff off, because my coal tanks have really gone crazy lately with all the different stuff that's going in there. Or we should just do scoops and be like, ooh, look at this, ooh, look at that. Because, I mean, that's what we like to do as keepers, right? Let's see. Lumpy Dog says, balance a planer tank and don't overfeed. Very infrequent water changes needed. Frequent water changes are just a big band-aid for unhealthy aquariums. Just my 2 cents. Yeah, there is a fine balance between that for sure. And sometimes the volume of the water change makes a big difference. Now, the frequent water changes can just help keep that system clean and clear too and healthy. But there is a nice balance to it. And the best way to find that balance for your aquarium, since there can be so many variables within an aquarium due to stocking, due to feeding, due to plants, due to biomass, due to the type of water, stuff like that, that it does take practice and a little bit of experience of knowing what you're working with and how it actually works within its system. I'm going to try to find a simple way to put it. I mean, balance is pretty much the best way to put it, but the easiest way to find that balance, I guess, would be tuning in to LRB Aquatics on YouTube at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time on Friday, to where we can help you with those variables, because there will always be those variables within this aquarium hobby. It'd be too hard to explain it all within just 1 hour. Your thoughts on pea puffers in a community setup? I've tried it so many times, it's so hard to make it work. Pea puffers really do need to be in a community only, in my opinion. And my experience, I should say. Once again, sorry if I'm missing you guys' questions. I think I got all the super chats here. Scrolling back down to the bottom. That way we can stay fresh to who is still here. Let's see. Justin Mosley says, recommendations on buffering substrate for Cardinals that won't break the bank. I mean, I do like the Amazonia ADA, and then the Bright Whale works pretty well. Besides that, I don't know if I really have any others to recommend. And I know they're not the cheapest, but you're paying for that special material that makes that water acidic over time. And with their technology, I don't know. I guess they kind of deserve the money there, because there's not a whole lot of other people doing it like they do it. Skunk Cabbages says, Mr. Hypothomus Placotomus, where are you at? Yeah, that's funny. Mike on YT says, YouTube says, are there any shrimp that don't breed like crazy? I own a few, but not a ton. Cardinals are more slow breeders. Ghost shrimp are slower breeders. Cardinal shrimp are slower breeders. They do have different cares, so definitely look into the type of care for those. Alright, scrolling at the bottom. Looks like we're at the hour mark already. Wow, that went fast. Do I have a favorite tank? Oh, it's so hard to pick a favorite tank. I think this one sticks as my favorite a lot because it's right in front of me, but this one down here on the bottom is absolutely lovely too with all the variety in it. And then my 125 rainbow is pretty sweet, and then the 125 upstairs with the rope fish is pretty sweet, and then my aquascape tank's pretty sweet, and then there's some other sweet tanks around the fish room that it's so hard to pick. I can't do it. But alright, I'm gonna hop off here. I wish I could stay around and answer all your guys' questions more, but I've got hungry fish to feed. And like always, I'm gonna go ahead, well not always, but a lot of times I'll feed these barbs on here for you before I do hop off here because, well, it's fun to do. And you guys seem to enjoy it. So that's what we'll do right now. Probably won't get to your questions, but hey, at least you'll get to see these fish go wild. Camantha Norland, very interesting first name. I like that. Camantha, very cool. Says, I love watching your videos. Oh, I'm gonna push the button. I love watching your videos and learning from you. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Camantha. I appreciate the support and the $5 super chat. Very, very nice of you. And all your guys' support, all my Patreons, all my members, all my thumbs uppers, you guys hitting that like button. You guys just coming and showing me support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you guys. These guys are not as hungry, I don't think, because of the guppy grass. But they still are fun to watch. Man, that one is going wild. For some reason, he has been on one today ever since this morning. Spooked him a bit. Haley says the rainbows are hungry. I bet they're probably trying to eat you in that tank right now, Haley. Boom. 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 Yum, 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 yum. Alright, I'll see you guys. Have a great weekend. Till next time. Peace. Have a great weekend.